All right, welcome back to another episode of the Podium Pushers podcast with Justin and Brandon. We are here to predict everything that is going to happen at the Singapore Grand Prix. We've got a doubleheader on our hands. We just witnessed a great race in Baku. We're hoping for another absolute banger here in Singapore. Brandon, how you feeling?
Feeling great. I think that it's going to be a great race weekend. Singapore's delivered the last couple of years, so here we are having a banger of a season. No reason why it shouldn't be a banger of a race.
Let's jump into our predictions. Brandon, who is your podium pusher of the weekend prediction?
My podium pusher of the weekend prediction is Oscar Piastri. Oscar, I mean, I talked about it going into Azerbaijan. He has had an incredible run of form, and he continued that by winning the Grand Prix this past weekend. And I think that there is no reason why he can't follow that up with another fantastic weekend, maybe a victory. I don't know. We'll see.
I have gone for Carlos Sainz as my podium pusher of the weekend. He has performed quite well at this track in the past. I think it is a track that suits Carlos Sainz's driving style. Ferrari have righted the ship on some errors they made earlier in the year on upgrades. I think they're back into a competitive form. I think they're clearly the second fastest car, and I don't think that gap to McLaren is super big. I also think Singapore is a track that will suit their car very well. Obviously, we've seen McLaren be a package that can perform well at really any type of circuit, but the corners that we'll see here at Singapore, I think will favor Ferrari quite a bit. So I expect both of their drivers to have great weekends, but I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz as my official podium pusher prediction. Let's keep moving right along. Who do you think is going to be backmarker of the weekend this weekend?
I've gone with Lance Stroll, and I know you guys might be saying, Brandon, that's just a cop-out answer.
Cheap prediction. Go ahead and
Of
give him the
course,
point. Whatever, whatever.
of course, Lance is going to have a bad weekend, and you're right, he probably will, which is why I predicted him to have a bad weekend. He had a bad weekend here last year, had a big crash. Um, so I'm hoping for another big crash from Lance. And making sure that he's okay. But
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe prediction. We've seen some poor weekends from Lance Stroll the last two Grand Prix. He seems to be firmly behind Fernando Alonso again, so I think that is a safe prediction. I'm kind of going with a safe prediction as well in my mind, and it is crazy to be calling the name I'm about to say a safe backmarker prediction, but it is Max Verstappen. Singapore has not been kind to Red Bull on numerous occasions over the past two seasons, and it was probably Max Verstappen's worst season of the year last year. He got eliminated in Q2, managed to have a fairly strong comeback, and if the VSC had gone a different way, maybe he would have finished even higher. But with the setup errors that Red Bull have had around Singapore in the past, combined with the state that their car is right now, and them not even fully understanding what's going on with it at the moment, I have no hope for Red Bull this weekend, and I think it is going to be a pretty poor weekend for Max Verstappen, and I think he's probably going to end up losing quite a bit of points in the drivers' standings, and I think that is a safe prediction for backmark of the weekend for me. Speaking of qualifying, we got our pole predictions. Who do you think it's going to be this weekend on pole?
I have gone with Charles Leclerc on pole. I think that he has performed really well here in the past. Obviously, he's got pole position here before. And coming off of his qualifying performance in Baku, I think there's nobody else that I want to put my money on.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc is a great prediction. So great of a prediction that I thought about switching to him last minute right here after seeing that was your pick. I was like, it's probably a good choice, but I'm going to stick to my original prediction and go with Lando Norris on pole. I do still think that the McLaren is the fastest package. I think Lando Norris getting eliminated in Q1 was obviously quite the anomaly last week, and I'm sure he'll be back at the front of the field for this upcoming weekend. We saw him get pole in Monza. We saw him get pole in Zandvoort. Lando Norris seems to be making less mistakes in qualifying this year than he did last year. You know, funny to say after he just made a mistake and got eliminated in Q1, but that's besides the point. Lando Norris has been a fairly consistent qualifier, and I expect him to be back up at the front of the field competing for pole, and that's who I've got this weekend. Moving right along into our podium predictions, who do you think is going to get P3 at the Singapore Grand Prix?
I've gone with Lando Norris for P3 in the Singapore Grand Prix. That's a nice little rhyme there. But yeah, I think Lando is going to have a great race. I'm really riding the momentum of a couple other drivers that I'm going to talk about in a second. But I think Lando in P3 is my pick.
I've gone with Carlos Sainz in P3, which I still think would be worthy of a podium pusher point. Just want to put that out there. Finishing on the podium would be quite impressive for him. But we've seen him have success around Singapore in the past. We've said it already. Ferrari seem to be fighting at the front of the field again. So I think Carlos Sainz P3 is a pretty safe prediction. Second place this weekend. Who have you got?
I've got Charles Leclerc. I think that, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just recency bias from the last race, but I think Charles is going to have a great weekend. I think he's going to be on pole, but I do think that McLaren has a slight advantage in race pace. I think we saw that this past weekend, especially with Oscar and how he kind of managed the tires and all that stuff. So
I put him in P2 as well. I agree with pretty much everything that you said. Ferrari seemed to be an improved package. Charles Leclerc was very good around Singapore. And so I agree with your assessment of Charles Leclerc in P2. Who do you think is going to win this weekend in Singapore?
I've gone with Oscar Piastri. I think, like I kind of said earlier, I think he could potentially win the race again. So yeah, he's been really, really good these past few weekends. I think I saw a stat. It was like the past 7 or 8 races, Oscar scored the most points out of any driver or something like that. And yeah, he's just been really consistent, and I expect that to continue. He really kind of made a statement last weekend with his win. It was an amazing drive, and so I see no reason why he won't replicate that.
Well, I agree that a McLaren win is certainly on the table because I predicted Lando Norris to finish P1. I think P1 is almost necessary from Lando Norris this weekend. We've
Yep.
mentioned before that we think Red Bull is going to be in a pretty tough situation this weekend. Lando Norris has to capitalize on that and try and score a 25 or 26 point edge on Max Verstappen if he can gain as many points on him. If Max does manage to finish in the points, well, that's a crazy sentence to say. But I think McLaren will have the fastest car again this weekend. I think Lando Norris will be motivated to continue to chop down on that gap wherever he can. And so I think Lando Norris will win the Singapore Grand Prix. What is your one push-in prediction for the Singapore Grand Prix? This was previously our bold predictions, but it is now time to fully lean into that podium pusher brand. One push-in prediction. What do you got?
My one push and prediction is we have a full safety car in the race. We haven't had a safety car in quite a while, actually. And I think it's time. We had a VSC in Azerbaijan, but not a full safety car. So I'm thinking there's a full safety car in Singapore. I think Singapore has a pretty good track record of having safety cars in the races. It's also a street track. It's very narrow. So that tends to lead to more crashes, errors are more costly, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I
my
think I think
prediction.
that's a great prediction. It has been quite some time since we've seen a safety car. We've even had multiple races this year where there hasn't been a single yellow flag. So I think that's a great prediction. Singapore is certainly a track that would lend itself to having a safety car at some point. My one push-in prediction is that it will rain at some point during the weekend. I feel like it has been a while since we've seen some wet weather running. I did check the weather before I made this prediction. There is a small chance of rain for the weekend, but it's like outside of the session times, like no rain during qualifying, no rain. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna change that because that's too broad of a prediction. I'm gonna change it to during qualifying, during the race, during an actual competitive session, it will rain because if it rains in FP1, nobody cares, and I shouldn't get a point for that. I'll be the first to admit it, and that's not bold enough for me. So, to elevate it to push in status, I am going to make it will rain during qualifying or the Grand Prix. That is my official prediction for this weekend. And this is the moment in the podcast where we would usually go over fan predictions, but unfortunately, we do not have any fan predictions for this weekend. But we would love to hear your predictions for the Singapore Grand Prix to get to react to them and see if you were correct in our reactions podcast. So feel free to leave them in the comments of this video or head over to one of our social medias. We've got a post up asking for your bold predictions, so feel free to include them there if you would like. That is all we have got for our predictions of the Singapore Grand Prix. Brandon, what is your parting podium thought? You only get one this time. Parting podium thought. What do you got?
One parting podium thought, man. I am excited for Austin. It's going to be a great race. This is the last race before we are watching Formula One live and in person at one of the best tracks in the world, definitely in the best state in the world, in Texas. Man, it's going to be great. I'm excited for the atmosphere, the track, the food, everything. It's going to be an awesome weekend. The company's going to be great. So, yeah, I'm beyond excited. I'm ready to be there, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
It absolutely is going to be a lot of fun. My single parting podium thought will piggyback off of that and say, if you see us at Austin, come say hi. We would love to get to meet some of the people that listens to our content. We will be sitting in turn 9. We'll be up there. So if you are in that area of the track or you have seats somewhere else and you just want to trot over and come see us, we'd love to say hi to some of the people who listen to our podcast and watch our content. Obviously, we are super thankful for each and every person that takes the time out of their day to listen or watch us two average Formula One fans. We're super thankful for that. But that is our official predictions for the Singapore Grand Prix. Verified banger of a race, hopefully. Verified banger predictions, hopefully. And so, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, follow us on whatever social media platform you are watching or listening on. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, X, TikTok, all of the places. We are there. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.